After my divorce, I decided to continue helping my sick ex-mother-in-law. One day, I accidentally overheard a cruel conversation with her friend, and I immediately decided to cut my relationship with her and taught her a life lesson she would never forget. They say the worst part of an invisible prison is that, at first, it feels like a home. Mariana had learned from a young age not to make noise, to move gracefully, to smile without causing discomfort, to ask for little and to think a lot. At 29, her life seemed like a postcard, a spotless house in a quiet area of the city, a professional husband with good manners, and a mother-in-law who treated her like a daughter. She was, according to everyone, the perfect wife. But no one talked about the silence growing inside her like a dark seed. That morning, Mariana woke up before Ricardo. She always did. She made sure the coffee was freshly brewed, that his shirt was ironed with the exact fold on the cuffs, and that the house smelled of something neutral, with no trace of food or perfume that could bother him. She had learned to live in a fragile balance, where every small detail could trigger a sarcastic comment. When he came down the stairs, she had already prepared breakfast: eggs to his liking, toast without butter, orange juice without pulp. Ricardo didn't greet her. He sat down and opened his phone. "Again, the eggs are too cooked, Mariana," he said without looking up from the screen. "Is it that hard for you to fry something properly?" She swallowed. This wasn't the first time he said this. Not the second either. "Sorry, darling. I'll make them again. Doesn't matter." As always, late, he added as he got up. "I'll just be on time. I don't know why you always manage to ruin the mornings." Ricardo left without giving her a kiss. Mariana watched him close the door with a subtle slam, barely audible, but enough for her to feel a sharp pain in her chest. She was alone, with the untouched plates on the table, and the feeling that her efforts were never enough. She forced herself not to cry. She had to go to the supermarket, clean the living room, respond to her remote work emails, and then visit Mrs. Carmen. Mrs. Carmen was Ricardo's mother. Widowed for years, she had found in Mariana a sort of emotional substitute, though this affection had something unsettling about it. From the first months of marriage, Mrs. Carmen had adopted her as a confidant, as emotional support, as an unofficial assistant. Mariana, in her desire to please, accepted it all without question. That day, Mrs. Carmen greeted her with a warm smile and tired eyes. "Oh, my dear, I'm glad you came. I've had back pain since last night. Could you rub in that eucalyptus cream?" Mariana placed the bags in the kitchen and sighed internally. She nodded with a soft smile. "Of course, Mrs. Carmen." As she massaged the cream into the woman's bony back, she heard the usual, that Ricardo was a difficult man, that he had no patience, that he was just like his father. But also that Mariana was an angel, a gift from God, a daughter without blood, but with the purest soul she had ever known. "You are the best thing that ever happened to my son, and he doesn't know how to see it," Carmen said in a lamenting tone. "I don't know what I would do without you." Such phrases, at first, comforted her. Now they left a slight unease, like a cold hand on the back of her neck. What would happen if one day she stopped being so useful? What place would she occupy in this family's life? When she got home, Mariana found a message from Ricardo on her phone. It wasn't a greeting. Just one sentence, with no hello or goodbye. "Remember not to spend too much at the supermarket. Don't buy things you're just going to eat." She stared at the screen. She remembered that the only unusual item she had bought was strawberry Greek yogurt. She liked it for breakfast, but he didn't. She erased it from her mental list. That night, Ricardo came home later than usual. He didn't explain why. She didn't ask. She had learned that any attempt to investigate was interpreted as control. She cooked his favorite dish, schnitzel with roasted potatoes and a fresh salad. He ate in silence, looking at his phone. Then he put down his fork and lay on the couch. "And what did you do today?" he asked without real interest. "I went to your mom's, helped her a bit. She asked me to take her to the doctor next week. I also did the shopping, cleaned the office, and made progress on the catalog." Ricardo gave a slight nod. Then he looked at her. "Have you thought about what I told you about cutting your hair?" She touched her long, light brown hair, which fell past her shoulders. "I'm not so sure. I like it this way. You look older. Plus, it doesn't suit you. With the face you have, you should accentuate your cheekbones. Something shorter, cleaner, more mature." Mariana smiled awkwardly. "I can try. Do it. Sometimes you need to understand that your judgment isn't always the best." It was at that moment that she felt the knot in her stomach. Not because of the phrase, which was typical of him, but because she realized that she no longer felt surprised when hearing it. It was normal. She was getting used to it. Before going to sleep, Mariana sat on the edge of the bed while he snored beside her. She thought about the day of her wedding, the white dress, the applause. About how she had looked at Ricardo walking down the aisle with eyes full of hope. She wondered if that version of him had been real or just an illusion she had told herself. Sunday at Mrs. Carmen's house was a theatrical scene. Carmen prepared food, placed fresh flowers on the table, and halfway through the meal made a loud comment while serving more rice. "I always dreamed of having a daughter. But God was wise. He sent me one through marriage." Ricardo smiled but didn't look at his mother. Mariana felt a strange mix, affection for Carmen and a stab of sadness. That phrase, so sweet on the outside, held something inside, like an invisible rope tying her with forced loyalty. By the end of the afternoon, while Ricardo watched TV in the room, Carmen took Mariana's hand in the kitchen. "Are you okay, my dear? You seem sad." "I'm just tired. That's all," she lied. "Ricardo isn't easy, you know that." "I'm so grateful you're still with him. I know what it's like to live with a man like that." His father was the same. Bad temper, little empathy, but in the end, you learn to handle them. Mariana nodded silently. Carmen, still holding her hand, lowered her voice. "If you ever have serious problems, tell me. I'm on your side." That night, when she got home, Mariana couldn't sleep. She got up and went to the kitchen to drink some water. When she turned on the light, she saw her reflection in the window. Dark circles, an absent gaze, slumped shoulders. She wondered how many other wives were looking like that at that very moment, in dark kitchens, with broken hearts and fake smiles for the next day. Monday was gray. Mariana received a notification from the bank. Her account had been frozen due to unusual activity. When she called, they informed her that her card had been blocked at Ricardo's request. He had asked to organize the finances. She confronted him that night, trying to stay calm. "Why did you block my card without telling me?" Ricardo, unfazed, replied, "You spend too much. And it's not fair. I work my ass off while you buy nonsense." "I work from home too," she replied in a trembling voice. "I pay for my things. My products. My needs. Your needs aren't a priority. Sometimes I feel like you don't understand your place." Mariana felt something snap inside. It wasn't the first time he had humiliated her. But this time, there was something different. The contempt was so direct that it felt like it burned. The next day, she canceled her dermatology appointment. She also canceled lunch with her friend Clara. She sent a message, "I'm busy. Another time." But in reality, she had nothing. Just a thick sadness, like fog, obscuring her days. Mrs. Carmen called again. She asked her to go shopping with her. Mariana agreed. She spent 3 hours at the mall, listening to Carmen talk about illnesses, pills, neighbors, and other unimportant stories. On the way back, Carmen placed her hand on Mariana's leg. "You understand me, my dear. Not like my son. He never had patience. That's why you're the blessing of this family. You're a pillar. If you fail, I don't know what I would do." Mariana drove back home with cold hands. That night, she didn't sleep. She stayed in the living room, looking at a photo from her wedding day. They were all smiling. All of them. Even Carmen. In that moment, Mariana thought for the first time in years something that scared her. What would happen if she left? She didn't say anything out loud. Not even in her mind. But the thought was there. Small. Dangerous. Like a lit match in a paper house. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel guilty for thinking it. That night, while the city slept under a warm layer of silence, Mariana discovered that thinking about running away didn't make her a bad person. The simple idea of leaving everything behind didn't seem like a betrayal anymore, but rather a desperate attempt to hold on to the little that was left of herself. It was as if a tiny door had opened in the darkness of her mind, a door that had always been there, but until now, she hadn't dared to look through. In the morning, she made breakfast with automatic movements. The sound of the skillet, the click of the lighter, the knife cutting the bread, everything was part of a mechanical routine that no longer stirred any emotion in her. Ricardo came down without greeting her as usual, but this time Mariana didn't offer him a smile. She just placed his plate in front of him and sat down at the table in silence. "Aren't you going to get dressed today?" he asked, looking at her with a disgusted expression. "You look sick." "I'm not going out," Mariana replied without looking at him. "Even if you're not going out, you should look decent. What will people think if someone knocks on the door and sees you like this? Your mom would be scared." "My mom doesn't live here," Mariana answered in a dry voice. Ricardo set his fork down on the plate with a barely contained thud. "You've been acting really strange lately, Mariana. I don't know what's going on. You don't even seem like yourself anymore." She looked at him finally, and in her eyes, there was a new spark. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness either. It was something else. Something dangerous. Something that, if fed, could grow and break the roof of that house. "Maybe you don't know me as well as you think," she murmured, and got up from the table. Ricardo followed her with his gaze, then snorted with contempt. He didn't say anything else. When he closed the door behind him, he left a trail of coldness. Mariana leaned against the sink and took a deep breath. Her hands were trembling. Hours later, while cleaning out the bathroom cupboard, she received a message in the group chat with her friends. They wanted to meet up on Saturday. It had been more than 2 months since they last saw each other. Mariana felt a pang of emotion mixed with guilt. She was about to write that she couldn't make it, but stopped. Why not? It was a Saturday. Just a few hours. She decided to talk about it with Ricardo at dinner. "The girls want to meet on Saturday. We're going to have coffee, chat." "I haven't seen them in a while." Ricardo didn't look up from his plate. "And why? So they can all tell each other their troubles and convince you that marriage is a prison?" "It's just a meeting," Mariana replied firmly. "That's not how I see it. Those women never liked me. They fill your head with nonsense. A wife who respects herself shouldn't be going out acting like she's single. And what's wrong with wanting to see my friends?" Mariana asked, her voice getting louder. Ricardo stared at her as if analyzing a defective object. "You're selfish. You only think about yourself. I work all day and you just think about going out, spending money, showing off. I don't know when you became so empty." The word empty fell on her like a bucket of dirty water. Mariana froze. Not from the insult, but from how easily he used it. As if it were true. As if she deserved it. That night, she locked herself in the bathroom. She closed the door, sat on the cold floor, and hugged her knees. The foggy mirror didn't reflect her face. She was breathing fast, as if there wasn't enough air in the world to fill her lungs. Her heart was beating so loudly she thought it might burst from her throat. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just gasped, like a wounded animal trying not to attract the attention of predators. She stayed that way for more than half an hour until the trembling in her hands subsided and she was able to stand. She washed her face, fixed her hair, wet with sweat, and walked out as if nothing had happened. The next day, she received a call from Mrs. Carmen at 9 in the morning. "Sweetie, my neck hurts so much. Could you come over for a while? Just a massage. I won't take up much of your time." Mariana swallowed hard. She wanted to say no. That she wasn't feeling well. That she had things to do. But Carmen's voice broke on the line. "Sometimes I feel like nobody loves me anymore, Mariana. Only you bring me peace." Guilt returned like a wave. Mariana said yes, that she would go. She dressed without enthusiasm, grabbed her purse, and headed to Carmen's house. During the ride, she felt her body getting heavier with each traffic light. Carmen greeted her in a pink robe and with her hair down. She smiled tenderly, but her eyes were red from crying. "I'm sorry for making you come. I know you're busy. It's just, I've been so lonely lately. Ricardo doesn't call me. The neighbors don't even say hello anymore. I feel like I'm disappearing. Mariana stroked her arm. I'm here. She spent 2 hours with her, made her tea, listened as she talked about her youth, her late husband, how she felt useless. Mariana nodded silently with a lump in her chest. She didn't know how to comfort her without sacrificing another part of herself. That night, back at home, Mariana looked at herself in the mirror. She whispered softly to herself, "This can't go on like this." Ricardo arrived late. She waited for him in the living room. "Can we talk?" she said directly. "What now?" he replied, taking off his stinky shoes. "I'm not okay, Ricardo. I'm tired. I feel invisible. You don't listen to me. You insult me. You make me feel like I'm worthless." He looked at her with a mix of mockery and annoyance. "Are you going to start with your soap opera dramas? Mariana, grow up. I don't have time for your whining. If you're not okay, go to therapy." "It's not my fault you're so sensitive." Mariana closed her eyes, took a deep breath. She was about to yell at him, but didn't. She simply said, "Never call me empty again." Ricardo laughed. A dry sound, without joy. "Whatever you say, queen of drama." He went to the bedroom and closed the door. Mariana was left alone, feeling her dignity crumble between her fingers. The early morning found her awake, scrolling through old photos on her phone. She found one from the day they moved in together. She was smiling with hope, hugging a box. Ricardo had his arm around her shoulder, but didn't smile. She had never noticed. His expression was serious, almost absent. As she swiped to the next image, she saw something unexpected. A WhatsApp notification popped up on the locked screen of Ricardo's phone, which was connected to the charger next to hers. Mariana wasn't the type to snoop through other people's things, but something inside her clicked. A silent voice told her that she had to do it. She carefully grabbed the phone, unlocked it, he used an easy code, and entered the chats. She searched for the name that appeared, Danny R. When she opened the chat, she felt her stomach drop. "Did you like the picture from last night? Read the last message sent by this person." Ricardo had replied with a fire emoji. Further up, she found phrases like, "I wish it was you waiting for me at home," and "Sometimes Mariana is so boring, I feel like running away." She read. She read until her hands were sweating. There were no explicit images. Everything was wrapped in an ambiguous tone, as if they knew someone could read it at any moment. But the intentions were clear. Ricardo had been flirting with someone else for weeks. Mariana didn't cry. She didn't make a sound. She placed the phone back where it was, lay down next to him in bed, and stared at the ceiling until morning. It was no longer just control. It was no longer just humiliation. Now it was betrayal. On Saturday, Mariana didn't go to see her friends. Not because Ricardo forbade her, but because she didn't want anyone to see her with such red eyes. She stayed at home, walking in circles. She sat on the terrace and wrote a list. At first, it was small, but it grew. Things she had given up for Ricardo. Places she no longer visited. Friends she stopped seeing. Clothes she no longer wore. Foods she avoided because he didn't like them. The list ended with a single word written in capital letters, me. That night, she approached Ricardo, who was watching a soccer match. "I need to talk to you." He didn't even look. "Again?" "I saw your messages with Danny R. The TV kept playing." He just blinked. "It's not what you think." "Then explain to me what it is." Ricardo got up, turned off the TV, and looked at her as if she were an inconvenience. "Are you really going to be jealous over an innocent conversation? We didn't even see each other. She's a colleague from work. She likes to joke around. You said I was annoying. You are, Mariana. You're not the woman I met. You're always sad, complaining. Who wants that? Besides, you're gaining weight. Look at yourself in the mirror, for God's sake." Mariana watched him for a few seconds. Then she turned around and went to the bedroom. She locked the door, sat on the bed, and looked at her reflection in the wardrobe mirror. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She didn't react. She just thought, It's over. Even though she didn't know how yet. Even though she didn't know when. Something inside her had already made the decision. And that decision would be the first crack of many. Because when a woman starts looking at herself in the mirror again, the world around her shakes. The next morning, the silence had a new weight. It wasn't peace. It wasn't relief. It was like that second before a glass breaks when it hits the floor. Mariana woke up with her decision made. She couldn't stay in this house anymore, in this body pretending everything was fine, in this life that didn't belong to her. The mirror didn't lie. There was something broken in her look. And the most painful thing was accepting that she herself had allowed this to happen for so long. Ricardo was still asleep when she started packing her bags. She didn't do it out of anger, nor out of haste. She folded each piece of clothing carefully, as if with every shirt or blouse she packed, she was separating a piece of history. The sun was barely starting to shine through the curtains when he stirred under the covers and saw her, kneeling in front of an open suitcase. "What are you doing?" She didn't turn. She kept folding. "I'm leaving." It took Ricardo a few seconds to react. He sat on the bed, his voice hoarse, his brow furrowed. "And this? I can't do this anymore. You think it's that easy? Pack up and leave as if nothing happened? It would be easy to stay here pretending I still love you." Ricardo stood up, went over to her, and snatched a blouse from her hands. "Are you crazy or what? You want people to know that my wife left me like I'm some kind of fool? I don't care what people think. What matters is what I think every time I look in the mirror. You're exaggerating. You're playing the victim. You don't know everything I've had to put up with." Mariana stood up. For the first time in years, she looked him in the eye without trembling. "You put up with something? I lost myself. I stopped seeing my friends, stopped wearing the clothes I wanted, stopped laughing out loud. I stopped being me to make you the center of my world, and even that wasn't enough. Do you know what's worse? Sometimes I still felt guilty. For not pleasing you, for not satisfying you, for not being more docile. And now? You going to act like you're liberated? Now I'm going to be free, which is different." Ricardo looked at her with a mixture of surprise and disdain. His ego wasn't used to being confronted like that. Mariana thought a violent reaction would come, maybe a door slamming, maybe a punch to the wall. But no, he stepped back as if suddenly realizing he had no power anymore. Mariana grabbed her suitcase and left through the door without looking back. The new apartment was small, quiet, smelling of fresh paint and unopened boxes. Mariana sat on the floor and took a deep breath. She didn't feel happiness, just a void that enveloped her like a shadow. That first day, she cried without understanding why. It wasn't because she missed Ricardo. It was because of everything she had put up with. It was for Mariana, the one she had buried for so long. Donna Carmen was the first to call. "Hey, honey, everything okay?" Mariana swallowed hard. "I broke up with Ricardo. I left the house." "What? But why? What happened?" "The same thing as always. I couldn't take it anymore." "Oh, sweetheart, but how could you do this to me? Why didn't you tell me anything? How am I supposed to be in the middle of this?" "You're not in the middle. This is between Ricardo and me. But you were my family. The only one who took care of me. The only one who understood me. And now, what am I supposed to do?" Mariana closed her eyes. She didn't want to hurt her, but she couldn't carry the pain of others anymore. "We'll keep talking, Donna Carmen. I really care about you. But right now, I need to think about myself." "That sounds very selfish on your part, Mariana." She hung up, feeling worse. The guilt didn't disappear, not even now. It was tattooed on her soul, like an echo that doesn't fade away. 3 days later, she decided to seek professional help. Sitting in front of the therapist, Mariana told her story without crying, as if she were talking about someone else. "I lost myself," she said at the end. "And I didn't even realize when it all started." The therapist nodded, not judging her. "Do you realize you didn't cry throughout the session? Crying made me feel weak in front of him. I got used to holding it together. And now? Now it's hard to let go. I feel like if I relax, I'll break. Maybe you need to break in order to be reborn." Mariana left the session with a strange feeling, as if someone had placed a lantern in the darkness. It didn't solve anything yet, but at least there was a path. In the following weeks, Donna Carmen called every 2 days. Sometimes in a loving tone, other times with veiled hints. Mariana tried to stay strong, but the words stuck to her like sharp knives. Ricardo is very sad, sweetheart. He hasn't left his room. He barely eats. Doesn't it hurt you to see him like this? It hurts me more to see myself like this. I don't want to meddle, but I think you were very harsh with him. Ricardo has his way, yes, but he also has a good heart. He just needed a little more understanding. I didn't have anything more to give, Carmen. I still love you like a daughter. Don't think that just because you're not together anymore, I'm going to stop talking to you. But I'll be honest, I didn't think you were capable of doing this. That day, Mariana hung up without responding. She sat on the new couch, which still smelled like fresh fabric, and looked out the window. A light rain was falling on the city. Water, she thought, was like her soul. It seeped through everywhere, searching for cracks to escape. She opened a box she hadn't touched since the move. At the bottom, she found an old picture, her hugging a tiny stuffed bear with a smile full of illusions. That was the image she had sent to Ricardo when she confessed, years ago, that she wanted to be a mother. She remembered how he ignored her. Not with direct cruelty, but with disdain. We're not ready. Having children is a huge responsibility. Sometimes I think you just want to fill empty spaces. That sentence hurt more than a blow. Because it was true. She wanted to fill empty spaces. But not because she was broken, but because her love had nowhere to go. Ricardo didn't receive it. Her world was a closed box, and she kept knocking on it from the outside, unheard. That night, Mariana dreamed she was holding a little girl with curly hair and brown skin. They were playing in the park. The little girl called her mom and ran joyfully. She woke up crying, with the image tattooed in her memory. The phone rang at 8 in the morning. It was Carmen again. I don't want to bother you, sweetheart. I just wanted to tell you that Ricardo is really bad. Really bad. I saw him yesterday. He didn't want to open up. He's depressed. I'm worried he might do something stupid. You know how impulsive he is. Mariana stayed silent. And what do you want me to do? I don't know. Maybe if you called him. Just to see how he is. Not to get back together, of course. I'm not asking you for that. Just a call. A friendly voice. Mariana hung up and stared at the ceiling. She hesitated. She wanted to convince herself that she shouldn't do it. That it wasn't her responsibility. That this man had destroyed everything that was ever beautiful between them. But something stirred inside her. An old part, rusty, that still responded to others' pain as if it were her own. Guilt, once again. Like an anchor. Like a chain. Like slow poison. She made herself a coffee. Didn't drink it. Sat on the floor. Thought. Calling him didn't mean coming back. She just wanted to know if he was alive. If he was okay. If he could move on without dragging her with him. She dialed the number. It rang 4 times. A sleepy voice answered. Hello? It's me. Mariana? I just called to see how you're doing. Silence. Then a short laugh. Now you care? Don't start. I didn't call to argue. Then why? Because your mom told me you're not doing well. And I don't want to carry that guilt too. Of course. Because everything in your life is my fault. You're always blaming me, blaming life, blaming everyone. But you never see what you did. What did I do, Ricardo? You left me. You humiliated me. You made me look like an idiot in front of everyone. You let go first. I just left physically. You were already gone long before. He didn't answer. Neither did she. She hung up without saying goodbye. That night, she didn't sleep. Not out of nostalgia. Not out of love. But because she felt that for a moment, she had returned to the cage. And she didn't know if the door was still open. Ricardo's call lingered in Mariana's memory like the smoke from a poorly extinguished fire. It wasn't nostalgia. It wasn't love. It was that dense and sticky sensation of having touched something still infected. The next day, she woke up with skin more tense than usual. As if her body had sensed what her mind didn't want to accept, that door she thought she had closed was only slightly ajar, and what came out of it wasn't wind, It was poison. At 9 a.m., the phone rang. It was Carmen. Again. Mariana thought about not answering, but she did. "Sweetie, good morning. Did you sleep well?" "Sort of," Mariana answered without enthusiasm. "Oh, my love, me neither. I couldn't sleep. I thought about you all night. I dreamed you were alone, crying in an empty house. You looked so sad. I felt a horrible anxiety. I woke up with my heart heavy." Mariana closed her eyes. Carmen spoke as if she could read her soul, but she wasn't sure anymore if it was a sign of affection or a method of control. "I'm fine, Carmen. I just need to rest." "I know, but I was hoping to ask you for a favor. My sister organized a family gathering this Saturday. They want me to go. I have no one to go with. I feel embarrassed to go alone. I thought maybe you could take me, just for a little while." "Okay." Mariana hesitated. She had work piled up. She'd already postponed 2 deadlines. But hearing her say, "I feel embarrassed to go alone," broke her down. Again. "Okay, I'll pick you up at 5. You're an angel, Mariana. I don't know what I'd do without you." Saturday arrived with heavy clouds and an anxiety that clung to her skin. Mariana dressed in something neutral, neither too flashy nor too dull. Carmen was waiting at the door of her house with an exaggerated smile, a dress that smelled of mothballs, and lips painted with a red too bright for her age. During the drive, Carmen talked about her childhood, her sister, and how the family hadn't been the same since her husband's death. Mariana replied with monosyllables. Something in her was slowly starting to shut down. The house where the gathering was held was spacious, with a garden, warm lights, and old music playing in the background. As soon as they entered, Mariana noticed several gazes fixed on her. It wasn't politeness. It was judgment. Whispers. Awkward silences. A cousin handed her a glass of soda without looking her in the eyes, and Anne asked if she was feeling better with a passive-aggressive tone. A teenage nephew loudly remarked that someone had to ruin the family. Mariana felt her hands freeze. Carmen said nothing. She simply gripped her arm tightly, almost like she was showing her off. Like she was saying, "Look, she's still here with me." Half an hour later, Mariana asked to leave. Carmen pretended not to hear her. "Already? We've just started warming up. You look beautiful, darling. Everyone is happy to see you." "I'm not comfortable. Sometimes we have to put up with a little for family, don't you think?" Mariana stared at her. Carmen smiled, but there was a different gleam in her eyes. Something Mariana had never noticed. It wasn't sadness. It was calculation. That night, returning to her apartment, Mariana felt something strange. She couldn't explain it. It was like someone was following her. She glanced back as she closed the door. Nothing. She turned on the lights. Everything seemed fine. She made herself an infusion. Tried to read. She couldn't focus. At 3 a.m., a sound woke her. It was faint. A crackling sound, like footsteps. She stayed still in bed. Her heart raced, as if it was going to jump out of her chest. She got up, grabbed a knife from the kitchen, and checked every corner. Nothing. She locked all the windows. Checked the lock. Returned to bed. She didn't sleep. On Monday, in therapy, she told the story. "I feel like someone is watching me. Like someone is following me. Like someone is playing with my mind." The therapist listened carefully, then spoke without softening the tone. "Mariana, you're in a very dangerous emotional dependency dynamic with your ex-mother-in-law." "Carmen?" "Yes. She makes you feel useful, valuable. But at the same time, she blames you, manipulates you. You won't be free unless you break this bond." Mariana stayed silent. She wanted to defend her, to say that Carmen was good, that she was just lonely, that she was an older woman, that she had no one else. But the words didn't come out, because deep down, she no longer believed any of those excuses. That night, she received a voice message. "Sweetie, could you bring me some medicine tomorrow? I feel awful. I don't even have the strength to walk. I can't trust anyone else. You're the only thing I have left. Please don't abandon me too." Mariana didn't reply. She turned off her phone, went to bed early. But the dreams were worse than the insomnia. She dreamed of the little girl again. The same one from the park. This time, they weren't playing. They were in a dark house. The little girl looked at her with sadness. Mariana asked what was wrong. The girl whispered, "You need to leave. She doesn't love you. She's just using you." Mariana woke up drenched in sweat. This was the third time that week she had dreamed of the same little girl. She had never had children. But that little girl in her mind spoke with a familiar voice. A voice that seemed to come from within her. She decided not to go to Carmen. She wrote a short message. "I can't help you this week. I'm sick." She received 8 calls in less than 2 hours. She didn't answer any. On Friday, she received an email from an unknown account. There was no subject, just an image attached, a photo of Mariana leaving the supermarket alone. Taken from a car, clearly without her noticing. Her skin crawled. She looked out the window. Everything felt the same, but different. As if the air were contaminated with something invisible. She dialed the number. No one answered. She decided to go to Carmen's house. Not to help her, but to confront her. She wanted to know if she was capable of going this far. Carmen greeted her with her usual sweet smile. "Oh, my girl, I'm so glad you came. I thought you had forgotten about this old woman. Was it you?" "Me what?" "The photo. The email. Was it you?" Carmen pretended confusion, but she looked down for half a second. "Just one. And that was enough." "I don't know what you're talking about, sweetie. You're too stressed. You need to take care of yourself. Stop playing with me. I'm not your property." "Property? Mariana, you're talking like I'm a witch. I love you. You're like a daughter to me." "Then let me go." Carmen laughed. A low, dry laugh. "You never left. You're here every time I call you. Because you don't know how to be alone either." Mariana felt nauseous. She left without saying goodbye. That night, Carmen called her again. Mariana didn't answer. But the call didn't disconnect. The phone stayed on speakerphone without Carmen knowing. Mariana was about to hang up when she heard a voice. "So, did she agree to go?" It was Carmen's sister. "Of course she agreed," said Carmen. "Where else is she going to go? She's alone, empty. She thinks she's strong, but she's foolish. Useful, though. She runs errands for me, listens to me, takes me places, brings me back. Better her than Ricardo, who already has enough problems of his own. And doesn't she suspect?" "Suspect what? That I took the photo? That I'm the one making her feel watched? Please. She has no idea. That woman lives on the moon. But she's useful. As long as she's useful, I keep her close. When she stops being useful, we'll see." Mariana hung up. Her hands were shaking. Not from fear. From anger. From disgust. From the certainty that she had been feeding a woman who had been manipulating her under the guise of maternal love. He blocked the number. Closed the curtains. Turned off the phone. Lit a candle. Sat on the floor. He cried. Not for Carmen. Not for Ricardo. Not for the lost years. He cried for the Mariana who believed everything. The one who confused affection with control. The one who allowed herself to be chained by sweet words and empty promises. Silence returned. But this time, it didn't hurt. This time, it was freedom. Silence had been a balm for a few days, a truce between the chaos and the mind that was healing itself. But like all truces, it was temporary. Freedom is a sweet fruit that not everyone can tolerate seeing in someone else's hands, and Donna Carmen didn't know how to let go without scratching. Mariana woke up that morning with cold skin and a heavy heart. The sun timidly peeked through the curtains, but it didn't bring warmth. When she opened the door to grab a package, she found a note. White paper, clumsily folded. No envelope. Just one sentence written in large, crooked letters. "Be careful who you turn your back on." Not all of us forget. There was no signature. There was no need. The blocked number called 5 times that same afternoon. No voicemail was left, but the echo of the insistence hung in the air like thick smoke. Mariana didn't answer. She didn't cry. She sat by the window, watching people walk by. She wondered how many of them also lived under the shadow of people who pretended to love while sowing fear. The next day, a neighbor intercepted her in the hallway. "Are you Mariana?" She nodded, distrustful. "Sorry to butt in, but is everything okay with you? An older woman was here 2 nights ago. She asked for you. Said you were her daughter-in-law. That you were unstable. That if we heard screaming coming from your apartment, it was because you sometimes lost control." Mariana felt the blood drain to her feet. What did the woman look like? Short, white hair. She was wearing a wool coat, even though it was hot. She had a photo of you in her purse. She said you were like a daughter to her, but that lately you'd distanced yourself a lot, and she was worried about your mental health. Mariana thanked him, barely holding back the tremor in her voice. She entered her house, locked the door, and sat on the floor. Carmen wasn't just crossing boundaries. She was shattering them. She dialed Ricardo's number. She hesitated seeing his name on the screen. She pressed call. "Hello? I need to see you. It's not about you. It's about your mother." Ricardo took a few seconds to respond. "Are you okay?" "No, but I need you to listen to me without interrupting." Half an hour later, they were sitting face to face in a downtown cafe. Ricardo, with deep dark circles under his eyes and an uneasy gaze, didn't look like the man she once knew. He had aged. Or maybe he had never truly been young. "What's going on with my mom?" he asked, avoiding eye contact. "She's harassing me. She's following me. She's lying to people. She told my neighbors I'm crazy. She leaves threatening notes. She calls me from blocked numbers. That can't be. Are you going to say I'm making this up too?" "No, but she's old. Sometimes she says things without thinking. She doesn't know what she's doing. She knows. She does it on purpose. She used you, your father, me. Everything she says is manipulation." Ricardo swallowed. He looked at the steaming coffee in front of him as if it hid an answer. "You think I don't know that? I lived 30 years with her. At 14, she made me feel guilty if I didn't sleep in her room when she felt lonely. At 17, she forced me to break up with my first love because she said that girl was trying to take me away from her. At 25, she asked me not to marry you. She said you were too emotional, that you wouldn't be able to handle my temperament." Mariana felt a mix of surprise and anger. "And why did you marry me then?" "Because I thought I could handle things. Because I thought you would change. That you were different. But it consumed you just like it does to everyone." The coffee went cold. Mariana stood up. "I want you to know something, Ricardo. If your mother crosses one more line, I'm going to report her. And you think they'll do anything? She's an older woman. You don't have proof. And she'll say it was all out of concern. You'll look like an unstable person." Mariana looked him in the eyes. "Then I'll get proof." She went back home with a clear idea. It was no longer enough to cut the connection. The truth had to be exposed. She decided to confront Carmen with a hidden recorder. She knew it wouldn't be easy. Carmen had perfected the art of manipulation, but Mariana had learned to resist. The next day, she went to her house. Carmen greeted her as if nothing had happened. "My dear, what a surprise. I was about to make some tea. Come in, come in. I'm so happy to see you." Mariana followed her to the dining room. In her purse, the phone recorded silently. "Carmen, I need to talk to you," said Mariana, sitting across from her. "Of course. Tell me what you need." "You've been telling people I'm not okay. That I'm crazy. That I'm dangerous." Carmen stayed silent for a moment longer than necessary. "Oh, Mariana. I only said you were going through a tough time. We all have those. You don't need to get defensive. And the notes? The calls? The visits to my neighbors? I don't know what you're talking about. You're accusing me of very serious things." Mariana leaned forward. "Stop pretending. I'm not the same woman who lived in fear. Not anymore." Carmen stared at her. The change was subtle but evident. Her face hardened. "I warned you that you couldn't play with fire, Mariana. I told you from the beginning. But I thought you were good. I gave you affection. I opened my home to you. You used me. I gave you a place. Because you didn't have one. Because you were never enough for anyone." Mariana didn't look away. "Do you know what's the saddest part? that I believed you, that I thought you truly cared about me." Carmen stood up, walked to the window, and then turned with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You're right. I used you. Because you allowed it. Because you need people to need you. Because without me, you have no identity. I made you someone." Mariana stood up, ready to leave. But Carmen wasn't finished. "Before you walk out that door, remember this. If you talk, everyone will know what you did that night, or have you already forgotten?" Mariana froze. "What night?" "Don't pretend. You know what I'm talking about. Do you think Ricardo never told me? Do you think no one else knows? You're playing with fire, Mariana. And you're not as innocent as you make yourself out to be." Mariana walked out without saying a word. In the recording, her voice trembled. But there it was. The threat, the confession, the laugh, the truth. The mask had fallen, and the war had just begun. The recording continued to play on her phone, as if the device, oblivious to the poison it contained, insisted that Mariana listen to it again and again. Donna Carmen's voice, acidic, controlling, sure, repeated like a dark mantra. "If you talk, everyone will know what you did that night. Or have you already forgotten?" Mariana had not forgotten. She had buried it. She had locked it away under layers of guilt, rationalization, and self-deception. But her body remembered. The insomnia, the tremors, the morning nausea with no apparent reason. The past always finds a way to surface. And that winter night, it returned to her like a storm. Ricardo and she had argued. Again, she had dared to talk to him about the messages with Danny R. He had accused her of being crazy, of making things up, of needing medication. The argument escalated so quickly that Mariana no longer knew who had raised their voice first. She only remembered her panting breath, his cold hands, and the moment he came too close. He shoved her with his torso, pinning her against the wall, and in a purely instinctive act, she pushed him back with both hands. Ricardo tripped over the carpet, fell, and hit his cheekbone on the edge of the table. It wasn't serious. A small cut, a little blood, a wound that healed in less than a week. But he looked at her as if she had stabbed him. He didn't say anything, didn't yell, didn't accuse her. He only said one poisonous sentence. "You went too far, and don't think I'll forget this." Since then, Mariana had carried that moment as if she had committed a crime. She never told anyone. Not even her therapist. Because deep down, she feared that it would take away her right to feel like a victim. As if one mistake could invalidate a lifetime of abuse. But now she saw it clearly. It was an accident. A defensive reaction. The guilt wasn't hers. And yet, Ricardo used it as emotional blackmail, and Donna Carmen used it as a threat to silence her. No more. She took the recording. Edited it. She deleted only the seconds where her breath was shaky. Everything else, she left untouched. The threats, the laughter, the confession. Then she wrote a short text. She wasn't looking for revenge. She wanted to break the cycle. "For years, I lived thinking I had to endure everything. That love was measured by sacrifices, silence, blind loyalty. Today, I know that it wasn't love. It was control. And not only from my partner. Sometimes, the most violent abuse is disguised as care. This recording is real. It is the voice of someone who swore me love while destroying my emotional stability. If something similar has happened to you, you are not alone." She posted it on her social media. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Shared it in closed groups. Turned off her phone. And waited. Less than an hour later, the first message came. It was from a woman who was also married to a man like that. Then another. And another. Stories from daughters, daughters-in-law, sisters. Dozens. Hundreds. Similar stories, broken voices finding an echo in Mariana's voice. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel alone. She felt support, understanding, care from strangers who knew what it was like to live in a cage without bars. The post went viral, not because she sought fame, but because pain shared with others finds ways that no one can stop. Ricardo called her that night. "What have you done?" "I've freed myself." "You've thrown my mother into the fire." She jumped into it herself. "And me?" Do you know what you've done to my name? And what did you do to mine when you called me crazy in front of your family?" He went silent. His voice became quieter as he continued. "I'm leaving the country. They offered me a job in Madrid. There's nothing for me here anymore. Thanks for finally sinking me." Mariana didn't answer. She hung up. She went to her desk, took a sheet of paper, and began to write a letter. It wasn't for Ricardo, not for Carmen. It was for herself, for the girl who once dreamed of a happy life, for the woman who had spent years thinking that love was about endurance, for Mariana, who had lost herself along the way. "Dear me, I'm sorry I made you stay silent for so long, for doubting your worth, for thinking you were weak when you were strong, continuing to stand. Today, I set you free. Today, I embrace myself and promise never again to hide what hurts, because I deserve the peace that was denied to me, even by myself." She carefully folded the letter, went to the nearest beach. The sea was calm, as if it was waiting for her. She took off her shoes and felt the cold sand beneath her feet. She approached the edge and threw the letter into the water. The current gently carried it away. Mariana sighed. She cried. She smiled. A few days later, she received a call from DF. There was a girl in a state of abandonment. She was 5 years old. No one had taken her. Her name was Nayeli. Mariana met her in a room with gray walls. The girl had the biggest eyes she had ever seen. She didn't speak much, but she hugged her without fear. Mariana knew without a doubt that this was her. The girl from her dreams. The one who appeared in nightmares to warn her. The one who now, finally, existed outside her mind. The process was long, legally exhausting, but emotionally transforming. A few months later, they signed the adoption papers. Mariana changed her last name, but not her first. She had always dreamed of her daughter being named Nayeli. The final scene found her sitting on the beach with Nayeli, sleeping in her lap. The sun was slowly setting, painting the horizon orange. Mariana looked at the sea with clear eyes, no ghosts. She had lost a lot, but she had also found herself again. And this, finally, she understood, was the only thing that really mattered. Because sometimes love isn't what saves, it's what causes the most pain. And healing begins when we stop trying to understand those who never understood us. If you liked this story, I invite you to leave a comment on how you felt after listening to it. If you've gone through a similar betrayal, I would appreciate it if you shared your valuable opinion. I'd be so grateful if you liked this video, shared it with a friend or family member, and subscribed to the channel. Don't miss the next amazing story that will pop up on your screen. We guarantee entertainment just for you. See you in the next video.